non-college grads and only have a high school diploma. The results of the program is that we place about 49 young adults in the nonprofit sector supporting a wide range of positions, support positions, capacity positions. I'm just curious, one of the realities is that our sector is really strained. Public galleries represents the solution to some of that strain, but also there's a lot of opportunity in the nonprofit sector, and getting young people involved in it and excited about it is something that we're particularly excited about. Even though that capacity is still strained, the need is still there. And so from a policy standpoint, from a practical standpoint, getting the next generation of leaders immersed in this work and getting them some skills along the way, but also networks. About 40 to 50% of our graduates each year go on to work in the sector, and that's in tough times and in robust times. So I'm wondering, in terms of policy or what we can do to generate more interest. Of course, I have a self-interest in that, but what we can do to generate more interest from a policy level to support national service, especially locally here in Chicago.
So the question is really, I want to make sure I've got a question.
Yeah.
So the question was, what can we do as a sector to support service and service learning opportunities within the nonprofit arena?
Right.
I don't have a really good policy answer. I think it would have to move at the federal level, and I wish it would. What we're doing at Women Employed is we have something called the Summer Leadership Program that's about 4 years old now. We recruit young people, young women who are, most of them are in college. They're not quite the same constituency as public allies, but they're with us for 8 weeks in the summer in paid internships. We raise the money for the stipends, and it's a combined professional development, career development for various kinds of nonprofit work. And then they do various kinds of field work, usually associated with them learning more about the problems in the low-wage workplace. And so we view that as Women Employed's investment in the next generation of nonprofit leaders. And I am happy to say that even in just this short period of time, we've had quite a number of our young women go into nonprofit careers, from everything from labor organizer to housing policy. So it would be great if we could figure out, I know it's not for everybody, you do have to raise money for it, but we just try to do it with existing staff time and raise money for the stipends. But it's been great for Women Employed. It's provided a pool of potential applicants for our jobs, and so, it'd be good if we could figure out even, the relatively small amount of resources for more of us to be able to do this kind of program, because there's a tremendous hunger, I think, among young people right now to make a difference, but they just lack the pathways. There just aren't pathways for them, and they may be in environments where they don't know about the pathways. So the more we can do that, I think the stronger a sector will be in.
Other questions? When through School of Business, and my students father all these people in Washington, they've been working with a couple of them here, so there are a lot of people who want to go in the not-for-profit sector. One of the things I want to ask you is if, theoretically, looking at the pipeline from dislocated worker to nonprofit, there's really kind of soft skill training, there's hard skill training, there's placement, retention, and then on this end, there's the employers. Where in that pipeline are the issues? And the one issue I do want to bring up is at the end, which was just made, is that, right now a lot of corporations are not hiring like they used to, and so our big generator of jobs right now is really the small and medium-sized business. And hiring dislocated workers is a big jump for many of them. They don't have the data systems in place. They don't have the HR person to mentor and monitor. So I'm feeling it's at this end. There could be some real problems in the pipeline, but I'd love to hear from you where you think the problems are in the pipeline.
I think the answer, like most answers, depends on which kinds of jobs you're talking about, which kinds of populations you're working with. We did a funnel analysis for each of the 4 sectors we worked with to do exactly that. From the time a person is interested in a job to the time that they get out of the job and are retained in a job, what are the sticking points in nursing, and so we kind of did it industry by industry, and it was different depending on the specific job that we were talking about, where the sticking points were. So I think in some ways, the sticking points could be in different places depending on what kind of job you're talking about. That's not a great answer for you, but I would like to say that on the small business side, I have worried about this because I do think that small and medium-sized businesses don't get as much attention when cities are doing large-scale job efforts, right? We always go for the big companies and we're trying to get those. But there are so many jobs in small and mid-sized businesses, and it's not clear, we're not hearing the call, right, about what it is that we could do to fix something there. And so we'll talk, okay. So I think part of it is that we haven't quite defined as a city what we could be doing with small and mid-sized businesses to make it easier for you to hire from the populations that are going through the system.
I can tell you one of the sticking point for the people we serve is when we present a resume with someone who has very little work experience and maybe a felony conviction, you know, they're competing in entry-level jobs for people who have college experience and who have work experience. And so in good times, we have challenges selling our candidates to those employers. In times like this, that is a real challenge. 80% of the companies that we work with, we have about 80 companies who actively employ and care our students. About 80% of them do online applications and online, we have to do, online job applications and online postings. We have to train our people to make sure to be able to manage that, but also when they click on that little box that says, have you had a criminal background, immediately they're not even considered. And so I think that, there is a challenge with the large employers for the people we serve, but to Evelyn's point, we're not seeing those smaller employers who really are in our sweet spot because they're much more flexible with people with criminal backgrounds. It's very relational, and they're looking for good people who are motivated, who can help take the organization to the next level. But we're not seeing that job creation. So one of the responses that we have, and I think that nonprofits of this sector needs to consider more, is social enterprise. And social enterprise is a hot button, but in Clean Slate Property Services, we created 15 jobs in the past 3 months as that business is growing. And so what are the types of industries out there would be a good fit for nonprofits who are looking to create jobs? They obviously need the seed capital to get them through the tough times. But what are those, in an environment like this, what are those counter-cyclical types of industries that would work well in this environment? So we not only got to think about those organizations, large and small, that are creating jobs, but we've got to start thinking creatively about how we create jobs for people who have significant obstacles to employment.
Other questions? What back here?
Hi, I'm Judy Pearl from the Program Director at Chicago House and Social Service Agency, and we actually created an employment program for folks who are HIV disabled, and for those particularly with a criminal background, we started Baby Culture Misgivings, which maybe some of you used before, to try to give people hard transferable skills. My question is what efforts are your agencies making to make sure the disabled population doesn't get squeezed out of this efforts to move people forward and back to work?
I'm not sure I'm the best one to answer that.
I can answer. So, I also, our organization also represents the Workforce Investment Board, where that oversees the federal dollars that come to Chicago. It represents about 10% of that $360 million I talked about earlier. And that system has been partnering for a while with the department in the city on a disability works project. And so that's our effort to make sure that our workforce development efforts are linked with the city's department for people with disabilities, and making sure that at least for the federal resources that we get, we're making job opportunities and training available for people who have disabilities. So I wish I could tell you how big those numbers are. I think the entire system is struggling, so I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing some struggles there in terms of increased demand, fewer job placements.